1500 hours, America's Web Radio.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everybody. This is Roger B. You're listening to Locked and Loaded on America's Web Radio. Today, we're going to talk about, as much as I hate it, we're going to talk about politics of guns because it's an election year. The election's 20-something days away. And if you own a gun or you're thinking about owning a gun, your votes in this next election could determine whether or not you will still maintain that right or whether your rights will be severely restricted. Something to consider. But first, I want to talk about this. I saw a story that said, breaking news, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend says she opened fire on the cops. How about that? But then later, after 20 hours of questioning, he retracted that and said maybe it was him. So, the only people who know what happened in that room are him, her, and maybe the police that were there. But to start speculating about whether she was laying down, standing up, whether she was bent over, who knows? We don't know what positions anybody was in. Of course, some positions are more fun than others, but we don't know what position they were in when the shooting started. But I just thought that was interesting that he actually testified at one point that she was the one who opened fire. Wouldn't have that changed the narrative? Then all of a sudden she fires on the cops, they fire back and kill her because she fired first.
You would have never heard that in the media, though. They would have never reported that if
it was actual. I mean, it's funny because now they're saying she was sleeping in her bed. The boyfriend says no, she was standing next to me.
Well, the myth has always been that she was in her bed, but I'm pretty sure they ascertained and
just by the bullets that hit her, they could tell by the ballistics she was not laying down.
Yeah, she was not horizontal. She was vertical.
She was vertical. She was sitting up, standing up.
This is what people need to understand when they want to, you have all these virtue-sending people who just want to jump on board and, oh, I'm for this, I'm for that because of the color of skin. Look, it had nothing to do with the color of skin, first of all. But you've got to follow the logic.
The way I understand, she was on the warrant, too.
I think she was.
Yeah, she was. And so she was on a warrant for drug dealing, for handling drug money, whatever.
But you shouldn't make decisions before the facts come out.
No. Oh, yes, you can, because then you have a reason to protest and riot and burn, loot, and murder.
But, I mean, we have... Okay, the very people who say follow the science. Well, you know what?
Follow the evidence.
Our forensic science is amazing. We've made so many leaps and bounds with forensic science that we can actually tell if a victim was shot while they were standing if they were laying down.
But you only want to follow the science when it agrees with your opinion.
Yeah. If it fits your narrative, you want to follow science. If it doesn't fit your narrative, you don't want to follow
I have a better, follow the money.
Well, yeah.
See who's paying for what. See who wants to get something done.
Well, then, Roger, you'll get down to the nit and gritty of climate change if you follow the money.
Right, because every study that was paid for by climate change enthusiasts has shown climate change is all man-made, it's all our fault.
Man-made.
Ones that were not funded by this show varying results.
Yeah.
Well, the climate change thing is crazy because it's like you're looking at 1 inch of a 1,000-mile road and trying to determine whether the earth is warming, cooling, doing whatever from looking at 1 inch of a 1,000-mile road. It's just, there's no way you can determine that. So it's crazy. But anyway, so Breonna's boyfriend tried to claim she fired first. And they were not at the wrong house because they had a warrant for Breonna's house. So I just saw this and I thought it was kind of amusing that, because the only people who know what happened that night are him and her, and she's dead. So she can't testify. So he could have said anything. He could have said she fired first and he could have held that up. But just the fact that there's any discrepancy or any problem deciding, it's nuts. So be careful what you protest for because you might be on the wrong side of history.
You might be on the wrong side.
Like you said, the science dictates she was not sitting down. She was not laying in her bed sleeping.
There was no way she was lying.
They were beating on the door for over a minute. 3 separate times they came beating on the door, announcing themselves. Yeah. And unless she sleeps like a log or she was sleepwalking.
Well, Roger, you and I both know a guy who slept right through a chainsaw that was basically going
outside his window. Yes, there was that. Oh, my God, a tree fell down. Oh, my God, who cut it up?
Yeah. It might be possible.
Yeah, it is possible. But the fact that she was vertical means she must have been sleepwalking at the time.
But through forensic science, because we all should follow the science.
Maybe she fired the gun while sleepwalking. Would that be? Is there an exemption for that? Does
Hey,
the
you
law
know
give
what?
any kind of leniency there?
There might be leniency for that.
Maybe they should. Maybe they should try to wake her up first before they shot her.
Right. But the forensics clearly show that she was vertical. She could not have sustained the gunshot wounds she sustained if she were laying down. In fact,
Right.
had she been laying down, they probably would have missed her.
She probably wouldn't have been shot. Yeah, because they fired her down the hallway. Some went into the bedroom, but it probably would not have killed her for sure.
Heck, some of the shots went into the neighboring apartment.
Yeah.
Shame on that officer.
Yeah, that guy got in trouble. Well, because
he did get
bullets do penetrate walls, and once a shot was fired, they just cut loose.
Yeah, I know.
And it's
you know.
sad to think they should do that. I mean, they could have just captured them outside their apartment as they were walking in and out because they had no idea they were under
Well,
surveillance.
I agree with that, and that's something we're training. Maybe I'm all for talking about new ways of training or more training. I'm actually not a fan of no-knock warrants. I think they're ridiculous, but that's just
Yeah, I mean
not that it was a no-knock because they did
No.
knock.
I heard they had an
But I
ability
don't-
to
I
do a
don't-
no-knock, but they just
Yeah,
didn't do
But
it.
they didn't do it.
They didn't execute it like
But I
that.
don't like the idea anyway. If you're going to surveil someone and they don't know it, catch them when they come outside. There's
Yeah,
nothing
they gotta
better
go.
than the
They gotta go
ultimate
get ice cream or
surprise.
food at some point,
But
or
if you bang on somebody's door, their natural reaction. I'm sorry, if you bang on my door at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning,
there's gonna
I'm
be
not
gunfire.
gonna answer the door without something in my hand.
That's
and it
right.
ain't gonna be a welcome mat.
And unless I hear for sure, unless I can hear it's police and know it's them. I mean, even then, bad guys can bang on the door and say police.
Now I can verify with my video surveillance system exactly who's standing outside my door.
That's right.
So,
Of course. Okay, now we're going to go to Philadelphia because this is going to get crazy.
woohoo.
Philadelphia is suing the state of Pennsylvania so the city can have stronger gun control laws.
Oh God,
So now the cities are fighting the states
Huh.
on their laws.
it's unbelievable.
And
wow.
yeah,
I would
because
say
they say, in order for safety laws and to curb an epidemic of violence rolling through the city. Now, we've proven time and time again, gun control laws do not control violence. They don't slow down violence. They don't do anything of the sort.
You want to know what curbs violence? Arresting the violent people.
The violent people, yes, keeping
The
them from
criminals.
committing violent acts. But in a lawsuit, Philadelphia is asking a judge to invalidate a set of regulations under the Pennsylvania Uniform Firearms Act so it and other municipalities are free to pass their own measures aimed at curbing gun violence. So they want to go to war with their own state and fight against state laws. Now, this is happening other places too. In fact, that a lot of states are passing laws that violate federal law. I mean, it seems like all these governments think they're in control of everything, and they're not taking into account the step down from the federal to the state to the city to the municipalities. I mean, that's the way the government's supposed to work. The federal government's supposed to be above all, with states having control over certain areas.
Well, states' rights does not give them the right to trample on the United States.
Yeah, states' rights have
Constitution.
taken a huge hit when they repealed the 17th Amendment.
Right, and there again, we're not going to do a history lesson here, but there are 18 enumerated powers, and then the rest is delegated to the states. And the sooner
but
we
just-
go back to that, the better.
But think about this for a minute. Imagine if every city or municipality sues to pass their own laws about whatever they want. What if it's not just guns?
Yeah,
What if they
right.
decide, we're going to make the red light mean go and the green light mean stop? I mean, it could get as stupid as this.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't, but they're trying to fight their own state because they don't believe their state has control of the situation. They think stricter gun controls are going to help, even though every study has proven they do zero good whatsoever. In fact, when more people are legally armed, it tends to curb crime more than anything else. In fact, crime has been going down since more people have been armed, more people with concealed carry permits, more gun owners than ever before.
Well,
How can you argue the numbers? I mean, the numbers are there. If an armed society is a polite society.
polite society. Well,
That's
it's been
right.
proven time after time, which you will never hear this from the media.
No.
But it's been proven time after time again, follow the science, that
No, not if it doesn't
Yeah.
agree with your opinion.
that anywhere there are more concealed carry permit people or law-abiding citizens carrying weapons, there's less crime. Anywhere.
Okay, I want to ask a question, and
Uh-oh.
I've been getting a lot of this lately, and I'm sure you all have too. You get a carry license in your county and state.
Correct.
Not over the internet via the U.S. carry permit.
Right.
Some states do allow you to apply online, even if you're out of state, and get a carry permit for that state.
But you still got to prove who
there's
you
not
are.
There's not a U.S. carry license.
No,
There's
not
a
yet.
universal carry permit for all 50 states.
There's
which there should be.
reciprocal agreements between
but
Right.
states.
There is reciprocity between many states. Like I think in Georgia, I have a permit for Georgia, and I have reciprocity
Oh, we're
in
good.
30 some odd states.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're good with Florida, Texas, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, West Virginia, Virginia. I mean,
Now, there are a lot of states where they have no reciprocity. California, Oregon,
Yeah.
Washington,
New
New York, New Jersey, Illinois. So some of those you can't get reciprocity
I would-
for anywhere, and
But
they don't
the-
even issue permits most of the time.
So don't fall for this thing on the internet. Get your online U.S. carry
No,
license.
that's-
Yeah, I don't know what they're trying to
if
do there.
they're-
I've not seen that, but there are some states
I'll
will allow
send
you.
it to you
Oh, you
next time
should.
I get it.
You should.
But you can apply online for several states and get their carry permit through the mail if you
Yeah, I
just
actually
prove your
did it with
identity.
Florida, but I don't need the Florida one, but I did go on.
And well, some people will do that because certain states have reciprocity with other states that your state may
Yeah,
not
maybe
have. So in
majority
order
of
to
it.
increase your carrying
Right,
capabilities, you can get it from two different states.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if you have a carry permit with one state, it's much easier to get it in another state too.
Well, yeah, because they know you've got, and they're gonna do the rigors of a background check anyway. But at least
Oh
they
yeah,
know
you
you've
still have to
already-
undergo
already
federal
undergone-
background check
yeah.
for any CCW.
Now, I'll tell you, David, I would love to see a universal carry permit because.
Oh, the
per
idea is
the-
out there.
You
The
know,
law.
I know the idea is out there. Is that the Democrats hate it, and there are establishment Republicans that won't do it. But because the Second Amendment is so clear, we should have a universal right to carry permit from state to
Well,
state.
could you imagine if they did with gun permits the same thing to driver's licenses? Not knowing what state you were allowed to drive in, what state you weren't allowed to drive in.
Imagine that.
Have to get a special license
Yeah.
to drive in Missouri as opposed to driving in California.
Imagine that's a great point, Roger. Imagine if we had to our state had to be friends with another state in order for our license to be
To
honored.
be applicable there.
You know,
Oh,
that's
then
a-
you got the Virginia governor that was stopping you by your license plate
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
COVID.
Yep.
So yeah, trying to see if you were passing through, if you were
Which is a
stopping.
direct violation of the United States Constitution.
Yeah, to stop without cause like that?
Where he thinks he got that power.
Well, that's the
Typical
thing.
Democrats.
During COVID, a lot of these governors have just taken on powers that they actually have no rights to take on.
Right.
There is no way these people should be allowed to do some of the things they've done. And some governors are just going crazy overboard with it. Like, I don't know if you guys are aware of the story that happened where the Michigan governor, the feds actually supposedly foiled a plot to kidnap her. Because now,
Whittemire.
yeah, there were some people planning to
Do you
kidnap
have a
her because they
report
thought
on who the people supported that want
one,
to kidnap
one of
her?
one of the persons involved, one of the main leaders, was somebody who was released from custody by a Democrat governor, pardoned by a
Pardoned.
Democrat governor prior to this happening.
And it was no friend or Trump supporter.
No, it was just he's just somebody who wanted to cause trouble.
Yeah, they're finding more and more about him too, and they all are anti-Trumpers, at least. It
And
seems
then
to
there's
be.
some reports that say they just wanted to perform a citizen's arrest on her for violating the law and let the courts deal with it. That they weren't actually planning
They
on
weren't planning
taking
to
her; they just
kidnap
wanted
her.
to serve her.
No, I'm telling you, this was blown. This story, they created a narrative that they wanted, so they came up with this bogus story. I'm telling you, the more we find out about
Yeah,
this,
the people
it's
involved
gonna-
were not the people you would think
that
were
you
involved.
that they were trying. They want you to think they were white supremacist, gun-toting, flag-waving Trump voters.
They
which
were not.
They were not.
They were socialists, most
They were
of them.
not, and they were, well, we can get into that, but they're also finding out that they weren't they weren't that far along. I mean, that she was in no real danger. let's
No,
put it that way.
but there was talk, there was chatter here and
Chatter,
there. I mean,
right.
so again, be careful what you put on social media, even if you're just kidding around. That has
Like
become
wishing for the death of President Trump. Hey, you might get a knock on your door.
Let's hope so. I mean,
You should get a knock on your door.
People say it's funny. There was a guy who did a social experiment. He wore a Biden hat for like 3 or 4 days, went shopping, went to stores, went places, blah, 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 and just never defended or supported just smiled, nodded, just kind of,
Yeah.
acknowledged that they were looking at it, and he recorded the reactions of people.
That's what a great idea.
And he wore the Biden hat. People said, "Oh, great, yeah, great, go America, blah blah blah. We love them, blah blah blah." And a few people gave him, funny looks or harumphed at him, but
I would have given him a thumbs down, but that's me.
yeah, but never really
But I wouldn't have
engaged
attacked
him
him.
in any way. Didn't They kind of looked at him, maybe gave him a funny look or something, or shook their heads or whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing direct though. Then he wore the Trump hat for a few days. Went to some of the same places he went with the Biden hat. People were screaming at him, calling him all kinds of names, yelling at him, trying to knock his hat off. And these are the people who are supposed to be more tolerant of other people's ideas, of the First Amendment, of freedom, of rights.
Hey, look, the left is not the party of compassion.
Yeah,
They're the party of Marxism, socialism.
socialism,
And they're using
fascism.
those tactics. They're using fascist tactics.
That's the
They're
thing that
using-
kills me. The anti-fascists are the most fascist
the
people there are.
fascists.
That's why I call them the anti-American fascists.
That's true.
With that being said, I would like to, whoever's listening, if you have a 7th, 8th, 9th grader in school and out of elementary school into middle school, junior high school, whatever you all call it, I would love dearly to get an email from you and find out, ask your daughter or son, what's the difference between socialism and communism? Now, by the time I was in junior high school, and this was during the middle of the Cold War, we certainly knew the difference and could define it very quickly. But I'm curious today what kids are being taught and if they know the difference between socialism and communism.
Well, one of the first things in communism and socialism is to eliminate people's rights to own guns.
Yep.
Because it makes you wonder, what is the government planning that's going to make you so mad you're going to want to shoot them?
Yeah. And why do they want to be the only ones with guns?
I know. It's crazy because they say, oh, only police should have guns. Oh, but wait, police are bad and we should eliminate all the police.
Now we want to defund the police. So
Just the common sense here eludes me completely. I don't
there is
understand
no
any of
common
it.
sense. That's the problem.
But,
No
okay.
logic. That all goes out the way. I've said it before. If you're going to be a leftist, you have to be void of common sense and logic.
A lot of times. And the funniest thing is most people who are Democrats don't know anything about the history of their party.
Right.
It's like, they're anti-NRA, pro-Democrat. It's like the NRA was founded almost on the principle to teach black people how to shoot guns, how to defend themselves against the white supremacists, the KKK, which were all funded and founded by Democrats. The Democrats are the ones who were hanging people from trees, black people from trees. They were the people who founded the KKK. They supported the KKK. I think I mentioned this last week. The longest filibuster in U.S. history was in 1964 when the Democrats filibustered the passage of the Civil Rights Act.
Yep.
And of course, the Democrats, oh, no, we switched places since then. Oh, because you don't want to take responsibility for your history, so you want to be on the other side then. And then you're going to just switch back whenever it's convenient.
Absolutely. The party switching is a big fallacy, that whole...
Yeah, I think Dinesh D'Souza in one of his movies
Yeah, he completely
showed you where they got it from and how it came about. But anyway, on to COVID restrictions being lifted and the excitement that gun enthusiasts can exhibit now. Gun shows are back.
Woo!
Back in the heyday of COVID restrictions, estimated 95% of all gun shows were canceled, which is, to me, was such a sad day to sit at home alone on a Saturday planning to go buy guns and gun accessories and ammunition and not be able to because the gun shows were canceled. So now they're back. We're moving out of COVID lockdowns. We're starting to see gun shows return to civic centers and, halls and stuff and convention halls. Now, I want to see, this is interesting because I've been to a couple. Yes.
Just a couple.
Applause for the gun shows. Yes. Everybody wants to have gun shows. But gun shows are back, and it's funny because the timing of them could not have been better. Gun sales are skyrocketing, hundreds of percents over what they were last year, sometimes more than double last year's numbers. And ammunition sales, the same thing, because a gun without ammo is just a club. But the gun shows are back. But if you decide to go, be aware the prices are going to be these are post-COVID prices and post-rioting prices. And everybody feels the need to defend themselves, which is good, though. I mean, exercise your Second Amendment rights if you haven't before. Now is as good a time as any, because to be honest with you, if this election goes the wrong way for gun owners, things are going to get tricky, very tricky. You're going to have to make decisions about, do you want to get it now quickly before they're made illegal forever? And will they allow you to keep it even if they do? We're going to get into that later. I have some questions to ask everybody. But apparently all the gun shows this year have a waiting list of vendors who want to come in and sell and provide to the public, because a lot of these guys rely on this weekend business. That's all they do. During the week, they have some regular 9-to-5 job, and they make enough extra money on the weekends doing gun shows, selling accessories or parts or ammo, whatever it is, to make up the difference in their income, and they've been shut down for the last 6 months. So now a lot of these places are recommending masks, but most of them that I'm seeing are not forcing mask wearing. And they're trying to ask you to social distance, but how can you do that and have more than 10 people in an exhibit hall?
Exactly.
It's kind of silly. But people are still going because I think they believe their right to own and possess a weapon to defend themselves, their property, their family, is more important than possibly breathing on somebody who may be COVID positive.
Look, again, we're supposed to follow the science. We're at the point now where the Wuhan COVID-19, if you don't have a comorbidity and you're less than 75 years old, you've got a 99.89 whatever.
Yeah, some extreme chance of survival, yeah. And it's just...
and the therapeutics are great, so there is no reason. Businesses are going to have to start doing normal business if they're going to survive.
Yeah, I was traveling this weekend, and some states were like Virginia, completely still shut down.
Yeah.
We went through Virginia trying to find a place to sit and eat. Apparently, they said, oh, no, we're not allowed to have any dining rooms open right now.
Yeah.
So, I had to sit there, grab our stuff, and eat in the car.
Illegal shutdowns.
Yeah, and because,
Killing
who
business.
says they can force that? And I wonder, after the election, are they going to come out and open everything back up? Or are they going to keep holding on to it, trying to blame Trump for this?
No, they will.
Because he went to China directly, took a bottle of the virus, and sprayed it on everybody.
Yep.
All his fault.
It's ridiculous. But,
I love when the Democrats were saying, go to Chinatown, go see a movie, get out, enjoy yourself.
All through February.
While he was trying to say, we need to stop travel from China, we need to shut down some of these things.
He stopped travel from China on January 30th.
And then they call him out for not acting quick enough while they were going exactly against his recommendations to start a semi-shutdown.
You're supposed to believe that somehow Trump didn't do anything and made the virus worse.
Yeah.
And yet Biden, from his basement, is going to eradicate the virus.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like a great plan.
He's going to shut everything down again. So if you barely hung on to your job, if you're back at work now and you don't want to be laid off or you don't want your company to go under, consider how you're voting.
There was an article out yesterday, the WHO, this ridiculous organization that's in the pocket of China. They actually came out yesterday and said, you know what? Lockdowns are bad. We're against lockdowns now. And you know why? They actually, and I don't know why they
did they follow the science?
Well, they actually did research and figured out that the people who were being hurt the most were the poor. The elitist isn't going to lose their job.
Right.
Not one government person lost their job.
Oh, of course not.
But millions and millions and millions and millions of middle class and lower class people lost their jobs.
And businesses, they said almost 25% of businesses will not reopen after this.
They're not going to recover.
They're not going to be able to recover from this.
So somehow the light bulb went off and go, oh, we're actually hurting people with lockdowns. It's actually worse than the virus itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of it was political. So
It all was political.
Originally, what was it? 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yeah, it was
right?
to flatten the curve. And then the curve was flattened, but you gave Democrats, you the people.
Well, there's a lot of governors and a lot of states and counties who decided to just take control of the situation. And they were going to do what they thought was right, regardless of the science.
The problem was we gave government unbelievable power, and they didn't want to let it go.
Right.
So that 2 weeks became 4 weeks, and the 4 weeks became another month.
8 weeks became 16 weeks.
Ridiculous. In fact, you still got Democrat-run states that are locked down.
And Cuomo wanted his own channel.
And Cuomo wants his own channel and thinks he's going to be the next president.
What? His own channel?
Oh gosh,
he wants a TV channel?
He thinks he deserves.
Oh yeah, well,
he's a reporter.
Yes,
he'd be a reporter.
Yeah,
we've talked about gun laws in New York before. They are draconian.
Yeah.
Him and his 7-round mag. You can have a 10-round magazine, but you're only allowed to have 7 rounds
7
loaded in it.
Bullets.
It's like, and you can only have a soda with so many ounces
Now-
in it. Although they repealed that, I think.
I'm not so sure they did. I know that I don't remember. That was a Bloomberg, that idiot, anti-gun douchebag.
Oh, Bloomberg, the guy who's guarded by guns 24/7.
Yeah, guarded 24/7
Because
by
he thinks
guns.
he's more
But
important than you are.
don't deserve to be guarded by any guns, but he does.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
these
the size
politicians have to realize what happened a couple hundred years ago is these elitists, these monarchs and patriarchs were sitting there trying to pass laws on the peasants that did not apply to them. And now our politicians have forgotten this. And they're passing laws that don't apply to them but apply to everybody else.
Yep.
That's going to cause a problem. That's going to cause friction, I think. But anyway, if you have a chance to go to a gun show, you might want to do it now because depending on which way the election goes, they may decide to try and permanently shut down any type of gun show.
Well, look, one of the first things they did in the shutdown was they deemed gun shows non-essential.
Oh, of course.
They go after.
They tried to
churches,
gun stores.
Non-essential stores. They tried to say were unessential.
Non-essential.
Non-essential. There you go. Yeah, and they go after their perceived enemies, and you cannot. Again, where do they derive the power to pick and choose who opens and who closes? They don't have that power, folks. And
Well, we gave it to them.
but unless we give it to them,
We're being
Unless we do
compliant
it.
in allowing them to
Yeah.
do this to us.
And that's why I said now you're starting to see businesses. I was able to go to a restaurant with no distancing and no mask. It was a glorious thing. And I think it's because that business has decided we don't want to go out of business. We are not going to let the government derive unknown power to put us out of business. And,
The same thing with gun stores. They were saying we are essential, and the federal government deemed they were essential.
Well, the Second Amendment deems
They're essential.
Essential, but and I was able to walk through a Sam's. I walked through a Walmart with no mask, and
Sam's and Walmart. I thought they.
I was able to do it. Now, look, it depends on what day, and depends on if anybody has the guts to say anything to you. I was able to do it, and I didn't. I got a couple of looks, but I didn't get. I wasn't told anything. I didn't get reprimanded. In fact, there were some other patrons that took their mask off.
People thought you were a mask hole.
Apparently. And you know what? Look, I wasn't doing it in any strange defiance. I was doing it as a citizen saying, you know what? It's time. I want to help businesses. It's time to get back to this.
The 2 weeks of flattening the curve are over with now.
They're over with. And it's time to get back to the norm. And I'm following the science. I can see what the real numbers are. And if official at Sam's or Walmart had asked me, I would have put it on. I wasn't there to cause problems, but I was there to show civil defiance.
Yeah, I almost got arrested several times going the wrong way down a one-way aisle. I never see those signs until it's too late, and I end up running into somebody going the other way, and I'm like, oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? Everyone puts their mask on, turns the other way, runs their cart down the other side of the aisle.
I will say it is funny to see, when you're in an area that might be, the Biden voter types. Because they will look at you. Because I've gone down the wrong way. I mean, I'm not looking down. I don't look down when I walk, folks.
You're looking at stuff on the
when I
shelves.
walk. And just in general. And so I don't see arrows on the floor. And I've had I have had liberals run away from me. You would have thought I was the walking plague.
You should have thought you were a giant walking virus.
I guess I look like a giant virus, or maybe they've seen pictures of the Wuhan, and I look like the Wuhan. But they would turn and run down the aisle, and I tell you what, man, if I could...
that would be a great Halloween costume for this year.
Awesome Halloween
Dress as a
costume.
virus.
Dress as a virus.
I'm going to have to look into that. That could be fun.
That actually would be great.
But now we're going to stay in Pennsylvania, where there's a sheriff in Pennsylvania who switches to the GOP, saying the Democrat Party has left me. He previously campaigned with them, and he was shocked. But he said, you know what? He goes, they're not supporting law enforcement, and yet they expect our support for them, and they support the criminal activity that's going on, saying, oh, it's mostly peaceful. But he's the one on the ground having to deal with people burning and looting and murdering and causing, crashing businesses,
burning businesses down,
blocking traffic, destroying people's private property in the way of their cars or their businesses. He's seeing all this firsthand, and he's seeing that the Democrats in general are not supporting enforcement of the law. Mm-hmm. And for most people, say, I don't want to have to use my gun. I would rather a cop use his gun and me not have to use mine.
Yeah, I'd rather the cop have to do the paperwork, not me.
Yeah, I don't want to have to do that if I don't have to. I carry it just the same reason I have a fire extinguisher. I never want to have a fire, but in case I do, I want to be
You
prepared.
want to be prepared.
There's no sense in not being prepared. Be locked and loaded, but
Yeah.
hope you never have to use it.
Exactly. People ask me. Look, I've said it before. People ask me why do you carry a gun? Well, first of all, the cops are too heavy, and second, I would rather have a gun and never need it than to need it and not have it.
That's right. Better to be
you know,
better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Carried by 6. And I had that moment in life, Roger.
Yeah, you've been held at gunpoint
Yeah.
before.
Have you just totally thrown out the idea of carrying the bow and arrow?
No, I actually like crossbows. They're much quieter. But yeah, Roger.
How do they fit on your side?
Well, that's a good point. Well, I
You have
stick
to
the
sling it.
arrows down my pants. No, wait.
Well, no, you have a quiver behind your
Yeah,
back.
quiver.
Sling it down by your side.
Yeah.
That could be, and that would probably, and being as a crossbow is not a firearm
Right.
because it does not use an explosive charge to propel a
To
projectile.
propel a projectile. It's actual.
While a
Yeah.
taser, on the other hand, does use
use
a
a charge.
explosive charge to
Yeah.
propel a projectile.
Yep. Think you're onto something, Dave.
Legally, a bow and arrow or crossbow would be less a firearm than a
Less
taser would
firearm
be.
than a taser would be. Yeah.
Now, a stun gun has no projectile. You could just zap somebody with that.
That's
you know?
right. That's right. You
Yeah,
just gotta
although I don't want people running around. Oh, you're not wearing a mask.
There was a lady that tried that.
Yeah, well, there
was
was a lady
arrested.
who sprayed tear gas on people having a
Yep.
picnic outside.
Yeah, outside.
2 people just sitting at their own table, not wearing a mask while they were eating.
Total social
and she went and
distance.
sprayed them
She
and
sprayed
their
them
little
out.
7-month-old dog.
Yep, and their food.
And that guy who took her spray away, he had amazing restraint. I would have just,
I would have made her eat
Oh.
the spray.
I would have
I
just
would have
grabbed
fed
her
her
hair,
the spray.
pulled her head back, and sprayed it in her throat.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I would have been so pissed off. I don't know if I would have been able
I-
to maintain my composure.
I mean, I'm a nice guy, but I would not have been that restrained.
Until
I
it's
would
time
have-
not to be
until
a
it's
nice
time
guy.
Not to be nice. I would have made her eat that can.
Oh my goodness! I
She would
think
have been
they
drinking
actually.
the
I don't know if they
cocktail.
caught her or not, but people saw
did,
her.
they did.
They did. Okay, good. I hope she paid dearly for
I
that
hope she did too. I hope
because
still
she is
there.
not an enforcement officer of any type.
Yeah.
But this guy in Pennsylvania, he's been a lifelong 40 years in law enforcement, and then he spent 26 years as a district judge.
Wow.
And he just decided, you know what, the Democrat Party is too frustrating. I can't go along with what they're saying. They're not supporting me. How can I support them?
Can you afford to? I don't know how anyone could support today's Democrat Party. They're not the party of yesterday.
Well, they're the party of lawlessness, it seems like. I mean,
They're the party of Antifa.
stand up and do something. Yeah, Antifa is just an idea.
Yeah, an idea.
An
Look,
idea that throws
an idea
Molotov
doesn't
cocktails
burn
through your
down buildings.
businesses.
An idea doesn't pull people out of their cars.
That's right.
An idea doesn't block the roads.
Yeah.
An idea doesn't join forces with BLM and burn down black businesses.
Or white businesses or any
Well,
businesses.
I stress black businesses because they destroyed a lot of black businesses. and
Well, yeah,
yet
'cause
they're
they-
supposed to be
Because they don't want to walk too far to protest, so they protest in their own
yeah,
neighborhoods.
in their own neighborhoods.
That's
It's
I
amazing.
never understood
You know,
that.
the fact that people will still wear a BLM anything just blows my mind away.
Yeah, I mean it's a supremacy group. They asked Trump, does he disavow any white supremacy group? If I were him, I would have said I disavow any racial supremacy group.
Any group who thinks they're superior based on skin color.
Yeah,
That
if you think
includes
we
BLM.
have to give any special privileges to anybody based on skin color or
Yeah.
race, you are a racist,
You
plain and
are-
simple. That's
yeah,
by
That's
definition.
the definition. Yeah, you inherently think you're better than someone else because of the color of your skin. That is the definition of racism.
And I like when they start trying to say, "Oh, well, there's only so many white people here, so many black people here. We need to adjust this." It's like,
Yeah.
really?
Really?
People have different skills. People have
Right.
different. Why not pick the best
Wants,
person
different needs.
instead of the black
Exactly.
person or the white person or the red person, green person, yellow person? Pick
Well-
the best person regardless of color.
Exactly. Color shouldn't be an issue. Color shouldn't be seen.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King, who was no Democrat, he said it best. You judge someone by the content
Of their character.
not by the color of their skin.
That's right. See, if they have integrity, if they have honor, if they have character, that's what you
Right.
judge
That's
somebody
who I
on.
want next to me. I
You
can
should
care
judge
less
somebody,
who's-
based on and what they do too.
Right.
They can say whatever they want.
Right.
Look
What are
at
their
what they
actions?
do. Actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely.
There's a reason why old expressions are old expressions because they've been around so long and they're mostly true.
And they're true. I mean, come on. most stereotypes. There's a reason they're stereotypes.
But-
They're kind of true.
But be aware, are you ready if lawlessness, I mean, supposedly no matter which way the election goes, they're expecting lawlessness to go
Right,
crazy,
to ensue.
particularly if Trump is to win. These Antifa groups, the BLM groups, they're saying there's going to be way more protesting, way more destruction, way more violence. They're threatening this
They are
already.
threatening the voter. And I said this on my show, Roger. The people who are best at suppressing votes is today's Democrat Party, because their arm now, their militant arm is Antifa. It is BLM, and these people, Antifa and BLM, are saying if Trump wins, then they're going to go out and
They're gonna step things up.
They're going to burn things down. They're going to break things. They're going to break you. They're going to hurt you. They're going to block roads. They're going to destroy property. That is a threat.
Now, how much?
Because you
Yeah.
have a free vote.
Now, how many people out there are you prepared for? What if they come to the suburbs? What if they come to your neighborhood? What if you live in a city and they come to your apartment building? What are you prepared to do to defend yourself? Are you ready? Are you locked and loaded?
I'm going to welcome them with a certain amount of lead.
With a certain shot that tends to cure socialism.
It cures socialism, man. If you hit the right spot, man, you can cure the crap out of socialism and Marxism.
Yeah, but it's just, I mean, this is scary times.
Well,
And the
look,
problem is, if you do confront these people on your property, who's to say the law is going to be with you?
There are certain states, Roger, where if they do take it to the suburbs, there's going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, gene pool cleansing
Yeah,
that's ever gone
a little
on.
chlorine in the gene pool.
There's going to be a lot of chlorine in the gene pool.
Because like the McCloskeys, they were standing on their own property
Yeah.
with their weapons,
Yeah.
and these people broke a steel gate, illegally entered this neighborhood on private property, and were marching in this private property area, and they're charging the McCloskeys with a crime.
Now, that's a great point, because they had to, this was all private property, which was gated. They had to break through the gate to get to the private property to have their little
March, walk, whatever it
If
was.
I walked into a private property and a security guard that was hired by that property came up to me and said, "Hey, you don't belong here. You got to leave," I would have to leave. And so, how on earth can we say it's okay?
Or could
for
you just
people to
scream, "I
break?
can't breathe" if he touches you?
Yeah, I guess I will. I guess I'm going to if that ever happens. Maybe I'm delivering something. Maybe I want to be a delivery guy. And
Well, you could have it.
deliver something.
You could have an explanation, but if you broke the gate to get in,
Right, that's what
you're
I'm
breaking
saying.
and entering.
But the point is, it's private property. They can ask you to leave, even if you're a delivery driver. They can say, "Hey, we don't want soliciting. You're out of here." But
Right.
yet, we're supposed to believe that these people who broke through the gate, we're supposed to believe that they were innocent, that
Right.
they were peaceful. It is not peaceful to break. If you have to get to a piece of property by breaking through a gate,
if you break
that's
and
not
if you
peaceful.
break and enter, criminally trespass, you're not doing anything. You're not peaceful.
Yeah, that's not peaceful. When you got to break a law, because if having your peaceful protest requires breaking a law first, it ain't peaceful anymore.
That's right. Once you break a law, you're done. But I just put that question to people. I mean, how are you going to defend yourself? How far are you going to go to defend yourself, knowing the law may not be on your side? Now, granted, this sheriff in Pennsylvania, he said he's going with the Democrats with the Republicans because the Democrats have left him.
Yeah, they left.
They've left him. They left his ideals. They don't support him anymore. So he's feeling like he's been abandoned.
And he's a sheriff. How can you support the party that doesn't believe in law? The party that wants to defund the police.
Yeah.
So I understand where he's coming from.
But now I'm going to pose some questions to everybody out there and see how you got to really think about these, because these are pretty serious. I want to pose a question to every gun owner today, and that question is, how far are you willing to go to defend your Second Amendment rights? And I know now, before everyone starts talking, "Oh, revolution, and shoot them all," back up a little bit, because let's go with the simpler.
Slow your roll.
Yeah, slow down a little bit here. Let's start with, would you be willing to violate laws to hold on to a legally purchased weapon? Would you defy the laws that require you to turn your weapons in?
Yes.
Now, would you consider hiding weapons or lying about having them to government officials who want to take them or, quote unquote, buy them back?
Buy them back. I didn't sell it to them, so they can't buy it. I
Well-
didn't buy it from them, so they can't buy it back. But I've already lost some in a boating accident, so
Yes.
yeah, I could lose some again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question. I mean, would you sit there and lie to government officials saying, "Oh, no, I sold those. I don't have those anymore"? And if they have a search warrant and find them, are you willing to go to jail because you lied to them? I mean, even though these guns were legally purchased, legally owned by you, it's going to be tough. The first few people this happens to are going to be the ones who will either be martyrs, or they're going to be, the ones who are going to, they're on the front lines. They're the people who are going to have to either make a decision and stand up. And a lot of people think, oh, yeah, they're not taking my guns. It's like, think about what you have for a minute. You have a house, you have a job, you have cars. I mean, if they take you to jail and you're there for 90, 120 days, what's going to happen to all that? You will lose everything.
You'll lose everything. Because they'll figure out a way to enter your house and they'll take it all.
Yeah, or if you can't pay, if you don't pay your mortgage for 90 days, your house is going to be
all
repossessed.
All they have to do is tie it somehow to the IRS. The IRS is the most powerful agency in this country, and it shouldn't be, but it is.
And they have a right to prosecute without evidence.
Yeah, and they'll take everything you have.
Yeah, so but it's a question to consider. I mean, now granted, the oldest form of resistance is noncompliance. And if enough people are non-compliant, it's very difficult to enforce laws.
Right.
But so everyone involved really needs to think about when this situation happens. If you're one of the first people on the list, how are you going to react to this? I mean, do you let them take everything because you don't want to risk the lifestyle you have right now? I mean, are you willing to stand up? And granted, for younger people who are not as entrenched in their lives, who don't own a lot of stuff, it's a lot easier for them to make these decisions. For people with families and jobs and other responsibilities, you can't necessarily take that choice and decide to go to jail for 90 or 120 or even for 2 years, because everything you have will be gone. Yeah. Are you willing to lose everything you've got? I mean, it sucks that you have to consider this possibility, but it looks like that question is coming down the pike, especially if the election goes the way of Biden and Harris. They have already said they are going to.
I thought it was Harris and Biden.
Harris Biden. It's a Harris administration with Joe Biden.
With Joe Biden, doing business as Joe Biden. It's going to be a DBA.
Where am I?
You
know the thing.
You know the thing.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. He was out today. I'm sure they shut him down already, but he was out today, and he already messed up. Couldn't remember where he was.
Now, Vic, I have a question. Is there any plans for the next debate? Have they postponed it, canceled it?
Technically, it's been postponed, but we'll see.
Because I hear Trump is cleared now. He's coming out saying he's been declared immune to the virus and he's non-contagious.
He is cleared. He was out last night at a rally with 100,000 people. It was insane.
Wow.
Insane. Biden can't put people in a parking lot.
Yeah, he can. 6 feet apart. Because he get about 12 of them in there.
Since you mentioned it, I'll tell you, yesterday Biden also had a rally, and I'm using air quotes, in a parking lot where people could drive in. There were more Trump supporters behind his stage yelling 4 more years than there were Biden supporters listening to him.
Well, let's hope. I mean, now, and all these supporters, if you don't want to see a Biden-Harris campaign, because I went on his website and I looked at his gun policy, and that's based on this show. All the recommendations I'm going to make are based on gun policy.
Exactly.
Now you shouldn't be necessarily one issue voter, but
well, you know what? We can get to that after the break and talk to people about that, Roger. Because it's a great point.
All right, we'll be back in a few minutes. This is Locked and Loaded. I am Roger B., and you're listening to America's Web Radio.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and now recommend is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with a sometimes not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers for that local or cross-country move. Timothy, Around Town Movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's Around Town Movers. Call them.
The disease of addiction is a life-altering challenge, not just for the person suffering its effects, but also for the family and friends who support and love the one caught in its grasp. What should be the course of treatment? Who is the best person to render treatment? And what is the best place to go for the care that is needed? We know that you want answers to these and many more questions. call 770-696-9862 and speak to a representative of the Atlanta Healing Center. They can tailor a program specifically designed to address the needs of the person suffering with an addiction, or give you guidance as to where that help may be found. Information is the key, and the trained staff at AHC is here to assist. If you wish, you can also get more information on the website located at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the americasbroadcastnetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. I am Roger B. This is the Locked and Loaded Show on America's Web Radio. And before we left for the break, I was asking questions. I wanted to know, how far are you willing to go to defend your Second Amendment rights? And I posed a few questions to everybody. It's just something to think about. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer here, and different people are going to have different answers. Now I have the second question. This I'm asking of all law enforcement and all military personnel. How far are you willing to go to follow orders that you know violate the U.S. Constitution? Are you willing to go door to door to try and confiscate guns from law-abiding citizens? Is your job more important than the vow you took to support the Constitution? I mean, this is something it's come about. You see people, like say this sheriff in Pennsylvania, he stood up against that and said, you know, we're violating the Constitution. We're going the wrong way. I'm going to have to go with this other party that I haven't supported in 40 years because I feel like they're going the wrong way. And I guess, would you just say, I was following orders, there's nothing I could do? Is that going to be a defense for you? Think about that. In your own mind, you're going to have to think, are you willing to violate the Constitution to perform a job that is asked of you? Whether it's legal or illegal, whether you believe it's right or wrong, are you willing to follow through and do that? And military personnel, what if they decide to bring out the National Guard and start going door to door to confiscate weapons? Now, granted, most of the time when they use National Guards, they'll bring National Guards from other states, so they're not going door to door to their neighbors' houses, to their friends' houses, to places they know, because that would be more emotional for people, I would think. But these guys have to sit there and realize, are you willing to follow orders? I mean, if you don't follow orders, you can get in huge trouble. But are you willing to take that chance? Or you say, look, I took a vow. When you're in the military, when you're in law enforcement, or even politics, you have to take a vow to support and uphold the Constitution. Are you willing to let that go to follow an order of a politician you know is wrong? You know, and also, do you know how your superiors feel about this? Do you know the department you're in? Are they pro-gun? Are they anti-gun? Are they going to come down on your side or against your side? Do you have a boss who you can look up to and say, well, he's pro-Second Amendment, he's going to stop it there, so I won't have to make that decision? Is that going to happen? Who knows? I want you people in law enforcement and military personnel to think about that. Would your bosses stand up for you, or would they throw you under the bus? You know, and just think about the scenario and how it might play out. Do you believe it's more important to follow the new laws that may come down or enforce the rights stated in the Constitution that you swore to uphold? How about judges out there? How are you going to stand with the Bill of Rights? Or are you going to enforce new laws even if they violate the Second Amendment?
Well, hopefully we'll have a Supreme Court justice that would throw out any attempt.
Right, but what about local judges? What if these, like in Pennsylvania, what if Philadelphia passes a no guns in the city law and all of a sudden these people are in violation of the law? Are they going to send police to go collect guns from everybody they know has them?
Well, did you ask already what are the police going to do? Are they going to
Well, that's what I asked. I asked law enforcement personnel, are you going to follow along with whatever laws come down, or are you going to stand beside your vow to uphold the Constitution?
See, I think we have good law enforcement that would push back, because we have law enforcement now that started to push back.
Yeah, and I told these law enforcement officers, if you're just a standard run-of-the-mill beat cop, how does your superior feel? Mm-hmm. Is he going to stand with you, or is he going to toss you under the bus and say, nope, it was him?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And you know, and the judges too, they're going to have to decide if they drag these people in front of a courtroom, are they going to uphold the Constitution? If these guns were legally owned, the owners committed no crimes other than owning them, are you going to throw them in jail, or are you going to stand up and say, no, this is illegal, this cannot be done,
Right.
this needs to be stopped?
You're right. You can't.
So, I mean,
boy, the day, if the day ever comes that it's deemed illegal to be in possession or own a firearm, I mean, that's
I know.
that's a simple
Now-
day. But there are,
because some cities and counties are going pro-Second Amendment, making themselves sanctuary cities or counties.
Right.
Other places are going completely opposite,
Right.
saying we're going to enact our own gun laws, we're going to shut everything down, we're taking guns away from everybody, nobody needs to have a gun.
Well, see, Roger, this goes to what we were talking about earlier. When you allow politicians to have unbridled power, they don't stop there. So we've now allowed them to lock things down in the name of a virus.
Right.
What is going to stop them now from citing?
What if
you know what?
lock
There's-
things down in case of civil unrest.
Civil unrest. We got to lock you down. We got to take your guns because a lockdown's not enough.
Well, they tried that during Katrina.
Think about it. They sure did.
The
They sure
local
did. They sure
law
did.
enforcement were trying to
Sure
confiscate guns from people
They
during
did.
Katrina. They
But
did.
Thankfully, the Bush administration stepped in and they had to return those weapons.
Yeah, hopefully they got them all returned and none of them got
Yeah.
lost, quote unquote, in the
Lost.
paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that these. Do you know how your local officials stand? Do you know how your local police department stands on this issue?
Exactly. You know, and the
Ask
community
them.
should be involved. You should ask. You should ask.
Anytime you get a chance to engage a local law enforcement officer in a non, I
Yeah,
guess,
whenever you
legal
just
means,
just talk
like
to
say you
them.
see them at a festival or something, at a fall festival,
if they come into a fast food joint, hey,
Yeah.
buy their lunch and ask them a question.
and say, "Can I ask you
know,
something?
yeah.
I honestly want to know how does your department feel about confiscating weapons?"
Yep. I mean, think about it.
And say, "I don't want to argue with you. I just want to know what
Right,
the
right. I
stance is."
just want to know what
because I live in the
you-
neighborhood. I
yeah,
want to know.
yeah. And
I want to know
that's-
where you stand.
And you know, most cops do not mind being asked a question from a citizen.
Right.
They
Now,
really
a lot
don't.
of them will not answer questions they deem political
Right.
because
Right, they're supposed to
they're supposed to be apolitical.
not be political, right? But you know, Roger, we are not long away from Halloween. Do you want the zombie apocalypse to happen and not have a weapon?
Of course not.
I mean, these are things that people need to think about.
Well, not just that, but I mean, if there is civil unrest and it comes to your neighborhood, what if the looters and burners and murderers and anti-American fascists come to your neighborhood
Yeah.
for Halloween
Well,
and
hey.
trying to intimidate the 7-year-olds trying to get their socialist free candy?
Yeah, the zombies can come in different, ways, and they can be Antifa, mindless walking BLM people who come after your candy. How dare them?
No, I pose these questions, especially to the new gun owners out there. Most gun owners who've been around the block, they've seen laws change. They've seen opinions sway back and forth on both sides of the line. Because, I mean, to be honest, Democrats have passed anti-gun legislation in the form of the 1994 crime bill.
Mm-hmm.
But it had a sunset. In 10 years, it was gone. The Republicans have passed more gun control to limit more guns than any Democrats ever have.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Yeah, I mean, like in 1989,
Let's-
was it Bush Sr. passed the assault weapons
Absolutely.
ban?
Let's be clear. These are establishment Republicans. There is a difference.
Well, yeah, but they were still.
they're
Party doesn't necessarily determine. What you have to determine is which party
No,
will be the most in agreement with you. None of them are going to be 100%.
Yeah, if you find yourself where you've got a Democrat that's anti-gun, you got a Republican that's close to anti-gun, it's time to go to Libertarian or Independent.
I mean, and people
you
can
find
say, "Oh,
yourself a candidate."
Trump passed the bump stock law. Yeah, he did.
well.
He did. And granted, you people go, "Oh, I don't have one. I don't care." Well, that's not the point.
Yeah.
Just because you don't have a military-style rifle doesn't mean nobody else should.
Doesn't mean it.
What if they start backtracking from there and all of a sudden your gun that holds 12 rounds is illegal?
It's illegal.
You have to get rid of those magazines and get 7-round mags for it. Or just take the gun away completely because it's a semi-automatic and they don't want you to have it.
They don't want you to have it.
I mean, don't give these guys an inch because they'll take a mile every time.
Every time. Every time. Don't be fooled by this business of Biden, which you can go to Biden's site and he's already said, look, Biden already said that he wanted that fake Hispanic to be his gun
Beto.
czar. And that fake Hispanic down there who goes by Beto, he wants to take every gun away. Harris has said she would, by executive order fiat, take your guns away. They're
Yeah.
not going to stop with assault. Look,
They're going to take everything, yeah.
Well, think about it. If you're out there and you don't own a lot of guns, then let me tell you and let Roger tell you. The action on an AR-15, a so-called assault weapon, isn't different than the pistol. You can have a semi-automatic pistol.
It's the same action as on your
It's the
22
as
rifle.
your 22 rifle or your 22 pistol or your anything pistol. And they're going to come after it. If they can get the assault rifle, then they can get everything else.
Yeah, be thinking about that. If you just purchased a gun, because there were over 5 million new gun owners in the last year alone. And especially you new gun owners. If you've never had one before and it's your first time, are you willing to give that up if the laws change? Are you willing to just hand it over if they decide it's not the right kind of gun for you to have? Are those magazines in your gun, are they considered quote-unquote high-capacity magazines? Are you going to have to give those away? I mean, you just made a serious investment in a means of protection, and you exercise your Second Amendment rights. Are you willing to give these up? Think about that when you go vote. You know, and if you think, you know, none of them are worth voting for, if you decide, you know what, I like this, but I don't like their gun policy, then just don't vote. You know, that's a possibility too.
That is a decision. A decision to not vote is a decision nonetheless.
Right.
That's a choice.
But if you believe in your Second Amendment rights, it looks like in this election, the Republicans are the only ones who are going to stand up for your gun rights.
There is no looks like.
Yeah.
It is clear.
I've seen it clear cut on the Biden-Harris website. They say they're going to stop all online sales of guns. Which, by the way, an online sale of a gun is a sale that gets shipped to a federally firearm licensed dealer and then transferred to you with a background check.
With the proper checks and everything.
Everything is done as it's supposed to be.
It doesn't come to your mailbox.
No.
I wish it could.
The UPS guy doesn't just drop it off on the front door and go, here you go.
FedEx ain't knocking on my door to hand me my gun. I wish he could, but he can't.
You have to go to a federally licensed firearms dealer to pick these up. So the whole idea of getting guns through the mail is completely ludicrous. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't happen. But if you are a new gun owner, you have to vote for President Trump.
If you're going to be
if you want to keep it,
if you want to be a sole issue voter, or that issue means enough to you. And granted, he may not be the best on every other issue that you may feel he should be. But you got to decide. I mean, this is a very basic freedom. That's why it's number 2 on the list of. On the first 10, it's the number 2 on the list,
and the most clear and concise of the amendments.
It's one of the shortest ones because
it is the second.
There is no ambiguity there whatsoever.
Ambiguity. The founding fathers were brilliant in that.
But don't get me wrong. I believe in gun control. Some gun control. Convicted felons who have a history of violence need to be restricted from owning guns.
Yeah.
For at least a period of time until they prove that they are not that way anymore.
Right.
I don't think an 8-year-old should be able to have a handgun.
Right.
You know, I mean, there are restrictions that should be enforced.
Well, that's called good parenting.
Yes. You
shouldn't need the government to tell you how to parent.
You could teach them about it, but don't give them one to take to school. All right, we got to wrap it up here. Thanks for listening. I'm Roger B. This has been Locked and Loaded. And you're listening to America's Web Radio.
Don't forget, new time, 2 to 3.
Oh, that's right.
Locked and Loaded time.
1400 from now on.
Yeah,
every
1400,
Tuesday.
not 15.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.